GaneTime is a browser-based time and attendance system. Each operator has their own user ID and password, and depending on their level of access, various menu options will be available to them on the left hand side of the screen. The employee selection screen permits users to filter employees to just work with the employees that they want. Any of these analysis fields can be used to filter the employees, but I'm using the employee ID as my key filter on this one. Each employee has an employee record, contractual data. These use definable analysis codes can be set up to match your requirements and work out how your database is built up and how you will need to filter it for reporting and processing purposes. Company, department, location, trade, these are all standard titles, but they are use definable, and as are the choice lists within each drop down menu. GaneTime also stores what sort of employee type this is, a pay type, monthly paid, weekly paid. We can cope with various types of pay periods, and these can be different per employee across the database. So you've got your staff who may be monthly employed, operatives maybe weekly employed, or a mixture of both. Each employee's got a shift pattern which determines when they're expected to come, when they're expected to leave, and a default cost code which we can set up to match your WBS or costing structure. We can also store information regarding card schemes that various employees may be entered into, such as CSCS, which we've got expiry dates, and for each employee we store the information and work on a sort of traffic light system to say that this competency is going to expire, so it lets you pre-book people onto new courses if you so desire. It warns you of what expired or about to expire cards and competencies. Once the employee is set up, the main purpose of GaneTime is obviously to process their worked hours. Basically an interactive timesheet for the employees that you've selected. You get a summary of what their information is, and looking back at a week, we tend to work with weeks in terms of worked hours. This makes it easier to break down even a monthly payroll, so you can work through it a week at a time or a day at a time and see where you're up to without being inundated with too much information. Here we can see this employee has no timesheet information for this particular week, so I can go into this employee and enter the timesheet information. From the shift pattern we know that he's supposed to work 9 to 5:30, and he has a default contract cost code building the compound. If the employee's just worked the normal working week, we can default these clock-ins, and it will automatically put the clock-ins in for occasions where people are away from a clock, or this will reflect the actual clock-ins made. Default the allocation. The unallocated bar has now disappeared, and you've got all the worked hours. At this point you could sign it off. If you wanted to say that somebody worked additional hours, so they came in early, just overtype the clock in time, and GaneTime automatically updates and suggests that there's an extra hour to be worked here. So again, you can now allocate that time to a different contract, the same contract. Choose from a drop down list again of use definable cost codes that are specific to your own requirements. Simply allocate the extra time, and you can update the system. Once you're happy with the system, with the times and the allocations, the timekeeper can sign that week off, so that they know that they've completed that task. On the hours summary screen, that line is now unhighlighted, so we know that everybody has had all their days and information completed. You can also put monthly allowances in, or period-based allowances. This is a gross cost for the employee, which is used in the cost allocation purposes. where we can take the monthly cost after the payroll period is completed. I'll just put this in for demonstration purposes, but that can be applied across the allocations. You can put normal subsistence allocations, additional allowances for night work, dirty working, clean working, electrical supervisor rates. I think any allowance, travel subsistence that you want to put in there, we can configure those, and they could be included in the payroll system. So once an employee is ready to, you've put all the allowances and you've done all their worked hours, there's a second layer of sign off. We can now suggest that somebody else can come in and say, right, I'm going to sign all my employees off for the week. All the employees are ready for sign off for the pay period that we're currently in. So those employees can be signed off. At that point, normal operators can't go back into change the data, and it's really a case of looking at the reports inside of things, producing information to go to payroll, and producing costing reports using the data that's already been entered. The key thing is you enter the data once and report on it. So if I run a monthly timesheet, a monthly timebook report, these reports run in the background, usually to a HTML file, but most of them are available in CSV or Excel formats. So that report can be submitted. Going back to the reporting, I've got a few costing reports, so you can have a look at what the cost breakdown of the employees is. You specify the start and end date, and some of them request a file name, and you submit the reports. Those go off in the background. Any stored reports are in your view reports directory, which you can sort and filter. You can sort by date and time of creation. So the costing report I've just run gives you a full breakdown of all the employees that you've chosen for all the period and all the tasks that they've been working on, highlighting where they've worked on different cost codes and different costs. And this is the gross cost of the employee divided by the number of hours to get a pro rata average and hourly rate, which is applied to each of the costings. And we can create journals for these if required. Other such reports will be the monthly timebook report that I just run, which shows you a summary of the employees' clock in, clock out time and number of worked hours per day, and any absences that were booked. This is the basis of the payroll report. Depending on our specific requirements, we will add basic, overtime and double time columns to something like this report, which will then permit you to transfer that information to payroll. Just another example of a payroll report. This is a view on a similar payroll report. This just shows the last week of the month for a weekly employee, but it shows the basic, overtime, double time and any absences that will go to payroll. This is the sort of information that we configure and specifically for you to transfer information.